How you guys doing? This is Rick Primo over here from Primo Customs. We're getting ready to do a fire job on this. The customer wants a green fire job, so we're going to be doing fire with basically yellows, greens, blues, and then we're going to shoot a green candy over the whole entire deal. Now last night I shot the black base on this, and the black base has a little bit of silver in it and a little bit of micro flake in it. So that way when we shoot the green candy over it, you'll get that pop wherever the flake is, it'll turn to a bright green. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I mixed up a deep green, so that's going to be my first base color. I also call it like my mapping color because I kind of lay out where the flames are going to go, how it's going to go down the side of the bike. So this is a very broad area that you're going to see me do. The idea behind this fire job is that we're going to go kind of like a re-entry look. So the base of it's going to be pretty big here, and then it's going to go down to little tiny licks down towards the rear of the bike. So the front fender, we're going to get started, and it's going to basically go from this area here and just kind of fade out. So it's a very dark green, so you probably won't see much of it. But like I said, it gives me my mapping idea. It kind of lets me know, okay, this is where this color is going to go. And then we're going to go over with a brighter color and start making it all pop out. So that's how fast you go through a color cup when you're doing this big of a flame job. So this is where a siphon fed airbrush would be better for this style, doing such a big area. And pretty soon we'll go into where we're doing little tiny details, so that's when this brush really excels compared to the big bottle feds. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up some more green. Now I'm using my favorite airbrush paint. It's made by Tamco. And then I take it and I mix it into bottles and kind of reduce it a little bit into the bottles, so I don't have to reduce as much as I'm going. But if you're doing a fire job like this, you can pre-make all your colors, kind of throw them into different colors. Make like a deep green, make a medium green. Now, because I'm videotaping and talking to you guys while I'm doing this, I'm not wearing a mask. But this is a urethane paint. It will cause cancer. At least in the state of California, it's known to cause cancer. So as you can see, that's how fast I went through a color cup. What I'm doing right now is 50% green to 50% blue. And then the rest is reducer. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually backfeeding the air into the airbrush. I'm taking my finger, I'm putting it over the needle and pulling back and pull back on the trigger lightly, and what that does is that causes the paint to bubble up inside the cup, so it's kind of mixing it all up, stirring it all up. The other thing you could do is put the cap on, put your finger over the hole on the cap and shake your airbrush. Now the reason why I don't do that too often is because I've been known to sit there and sling paint everywhere, and it's not good. So as you can see, I'm just kind of mapping out. Now we kind of want the flames to go pretty much on this whole piece. So I'm going to be very broad on this. If you don't go real broad on your first stage, then what you'll end up getting is a spaghetti looking strings that we'll call fire. But so the bigger the base, the more detail you can have into your flames and kind of build up the whole entire area. Now I'm going to airbrush some skulls into this also, but that'll be later, in the later colors. So what we're going to do is as we get to the brighter colors, I'll start mapping out my skulls. But in this stage right here, we're just trying to get the big base of where the fire is going. All right, so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me do every single little tiny bit of this thing. What we're going to do is finish up the mapping stage. Then I'm going to mix up a brighter green. You guys will come right back. We'll be hanging out together. See you guys soon. We got the mapping done of the first color. And you can see that the flames kind of go all the way down the side, taper down as they go down. Now we're going in with a brighter green. This is basically just a straight Tamco green right out of their color chart. And reduced about 50%. And now we're going to come in and we're going to get a little bit tighter as we do our green. Now this is still going to be a really dark green compared to what the overall fire green is going to be. But the idea is to build up layers so we can build up depth within the layers. So if you notice, I'm still not using any stencils. A lot of people, they want to use stencils right away and kind of get that hard line in there. And it doesn't really flow like fire does. So fire, your darker colors is kind of like a big broad area. And that's kind of like the glow that you see around the fire. So I'm going to go ahead and start on this front fender. Now I'm still just kind of going in and being broad about it. I'm a little bit tighter than what I was in the first one. But now I'm starting to, now you're able to actually see that green kind of pop on it. I'll do a little bit on the top side. I'm doing the back side of this bike all off camera, just so we don't have to sit there and switch everything around and roll stuff around. All right, so I threw a little bit of green candy inside my spray gun here. I got a little tiny mini spray gun. It makes it real easy to do larger areas, but not full-size spray cars, you know. This gun sprays a nice wide pattern, probably about 8 to 10 inches. Threw some green candy in here. Now I'm just going to green candy over the flames. Since green candy over black doesn't really show up. So I have actually metallic underneath this, so it's going to show up. So it's going to be darker wherever I spray this green candy on our finished product. So we have to actually think about that while we're shooting this. So I'm going to stay tight to the flames. I'm not just going to go crazy and go over everything. But the darkness won't really affect us too much because it'll kind of look like the flames is shadowing onto the project. So what I'm going to do is just kind of come in here and shoot our green candy over where I have my green color. Now at this stage, we won't notice too much of a difference on the green candy onto the green. But as we get to our further stages, you're going to really notice it, because when you shoot this green candy over yellow, now you're going to get that real toxic bright green look. So what this is doing is actually taking the green that we shot and it's pushing it back in our layers. So we're trying to get that real depth, that real looking layered look. And that's what this stage is doing, is pushing that back. So our next color on top of that is going to bring that back out. All right, so my next stage, I'm going to come in with the airbrush, hit it with some green, the same green that I shot before. But now you're going to notice actually kind of pop out a little bit more because we pushed this back. And then I'm going to start adding a little bit of chrome yellow or lemon yellow into my green to brighten up that green. So stick with us. All right, so we shot the green candy on here. As you notice, kind of push it back a little bit. Now we're going to come back in. This is the same exact green. And you'll kind of see how it brightens it up just a little bit more. So the candy pushed it back. Now we're getting another layer in here. So you're going to notice that we're going to start building up and building up and building up. As we build up, we're going to start getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So we can't take this color outside of what we already have done. So now I'm going to come in and just basically do another run on this. Notice, still no stencils. Now this is why the first stage was so important to get so broad, is because now each stage we're going to be getting smaller. And pretty soon you'll notice that even though it looks like the whole entire front end is green, your brightness of the green is going to be small inside this big area. Doing a big area here, so I'm doing circles so I don't get lines. Now when I come back out here, you'll notice I'll kind of go back over myself. And what I'm trying to do is create kind of a little wispy green area. So that way it doesn't look one-dimensional. I'm allowing it to kind of fade out and then I come back in and get it bright in certain areas. And that'll help build up a lot of our layering process. Even though it's one color, it's still going to look like multiple layers on it. You can see how much I'm spraying to how fast I'm having to refill my airbrush. Now if you're doing a motorcycle like this and you have the ability to get a bottom fed airbrush, then that would be the way to go. Just fill up a couple bottles and you wouldn't have to stop at all. Just keep going, making your money. I'm just gonna hit a couple little areas back here so it looks like the licks are actually trying to flop off the edge of that fire. All right, with this stage done on this side, I'm gonna go to the other side, and then we're gonna, on the next color, it's gonna be a little bit brighter green, and you're gonna notice that it's gonna start getting a lot smaller, and it's gonna take a little bit longer on each stage, because now we're gonna get all that detail into it. So I'll see you guys next. All right, so now we have the brighter green, just a little bit brighter. We added a little bit of yellow to it to kind of vibrancy up that green. You don't want to add white. White will make it like a weird grayish green color. So now we're going to come in, and I got my stencils here. Yes, I do use some stencils. I got my stencils here from Insane Stencil, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you how I use the stencils. Now, of course, this is my version of fire, so everybody kind of make up your own. But what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll hit the edge with the stencil. See how that puts that hard line into it? Right? So this is what most people's fires look like. You got all these weird hard lines in it. Now what I like to do is take the airbrush freehand-wise and kind of connect those lines. So now you notice now the stencil look isn't there. It's not so stencily. So we can bring that in. Now what we're using the stencil for is to create a hard edge to really give that lift. So that's what the whole purpose of the stencil is. So I'll come in, I'll do a couple lines, do a couple stencil marks, and then kind of blend out that look of that stencil line. So this is where it gets a little more time consuming because you're going in there and you're actually doing art now instead of just blowing a whole bunch of color in. And I won't do stencils all the time in every area, because you really don't want that stencil to look like a stencil look. So I'll come in with a lot of freehand. We still want to be a broad area because we're going to keep on getting tighter as we go. But you'll notice that I'll do a lot of kind of like an outline, kind of spaghetti line, some people called it. But then I'll come in and I'll kind of fill this in. Not solid, I still want some of that other color to shine through. So there's a lot of freehand work when you're doing the fire. See how we're starting to build up a lot of depth on that now? You're starting to really get that pop look to it. And of course you run out of paint constantly because we're using a little tiny color cup. So let's get this whole area kind of bright. Now the next stage is where I'll start all my skull work. And here I'm kind of thinking about the skulls. I might start mapping out skulls. A lot of the times the fire will tell me what to do. You'll look at kind of the airbrush shape you're getting and go, okay, you know what, let's do something in this area. Because it already kind of looks like something. Now all these lines that I'm doing is still within that big dark area of green that we did of the mapping that you really can't see now at this stage. But it's there. That's when we get that clear on there and get that popping, you're going to notice it. Don't forget certain areas. You'll get little areas that you put off the map here. You don't want to forget brightening those up. All right, so we're going to go to the front fender. Now you don't need a high detailed airbrush to do this. This can be basically a generic airbrush. Now one thing I don't recommend is getting Chinese airbrushes. And that's just from my personal experience. Been teaching for a lot of years. And I've had a lot of students get frustrated and actually quit because the airbrush isn't keeping up with them. You know, you want something that's gonna handle, you know, where you don't have to go out and buy an airbrush as soon as you start wanting to pull more detail out of something. So you want that airbrush to keep going. All right, so now we got a little bit brighter green. The way I made my green brighter was we added some yellow into it. Kind of get that vibrancy to pop a little bit. I'm going to come in again with my stencil. Insane Custom Stencils. Check them out online. And now I'm going to come in and basically do exactly what we did before. But now we're brighter, kind of more of that toxic green. And we want to stay inside of what we've done before. So now it starts getting smaller areas, start getting into a little more detail of what we're doing. Remember, you want to keep the flow going from front to rear. You don't want anything to look like it's going backwards. And in reality, we're not doing fire. We're doing kind of a graphic idea of fire. Because if you actually look at fire, it's kind of boring. There's not much flow to it. And the idea that we want with this is to make the bike look longer, so we're doing small and long pieces. It's kind of like adding a body line to a vehicle. We're going to come in and hit it with a little bit of a green candy, and then we're going to do some skull artwork on it. Work that into some of the licks. Now once again, I hit it with the stencil, and then I come around it and I blend that stencil line into the fire. All right, we're going to keep doing this color all the way to the back, and we'll get back to you guys. All right, so we came in and shot candy on it. So now we push those flames back. Now I'm going to come in with a little bit of a brighter green, and we're going to do detail on the fire, but we're also going to start adding a little bit of skull work into it. And the skulls, we want kind of pieces of them, kind of ghosted, not like, well, here's a skull and here's a skull. We want it to look like the fire is actually creating the look of the skull. So I'm starting at a pretty late stage in it. You can start earlier if you want to map it out in your first stage, you can. But what I'm going to do is just kind of do bridges of nose, some teeth, and just little things throughout the whole entire flame job. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and kind of create the bridge of a nose. And then just some pieces coming off of that skull to resemble what a skull looks like, Kind of do a little bit of his head. Now, like I said, we don't want to do a full-on detailed skull, but we want to make it look kind of cool so people can look around the bike and go, hey, whoa, there's a skull over there. There's one over here. So we can basically just kind of sketching a skull. I mean, it doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to look awesome. It just has to kind of be there. Like on this one, I won't do a lower jaw. I'll just kind of lay in some teeth in here. Right, so now you kind of have a skull in there. Let's bring in a little bit of this. Come in with a little stencil work, kind of blow a couple lines in here. I'm going to kind of blow right through the skull as if it's kind of there, but not really, because we want it to blend in. And now we're starting to get a little more detail on our fire. Sit there and watch this whole entire process. So I'm going to go ahead and work on the rest of the bike, get some of these skulls done, and then we'll come back right before I shoot a little layer of green candy over it, and you'll be able to see how we're building up these layers and processes. But as you can tell, you're starting to get a lot of depth into these. So just like the front fender that you guys saw a little bit ago, we came in and adding our bright green and doing little tiny skull, just pieces of them. So that way it kind of looks like they're in the fire, but not, you know, kind of out of place. Like here's a skull and here's the fire. So we have the fire kind of blending in. Now, when we come back over this, we're going to shoot a light candy over this, come back with some brighter yellowish green, and then pull the detail out of it even more, and then shoot a little bit of green candy over it, and then we'll be calling it good, getting ready. So now I'm coming in with that brighter green. We've done the back half of the bike, coming into this front half, and we kind of wanted to show you a little bit of the detail, kind of what I'm doing to make that kind of pop out. As you can tell, I'm not shooting the yellow over everything. This is actually green, but it looks yellow on the bike. It's real bright. So I'm coming in and hitting just detail areas. And what I'll do is I'll come in and just kind of take the airbrush and do a little bit of a line and kind of blend off that line. You notice my stencil work really does, you can't barely even see the stencil lines in it now. So that's blending out the stencils to me the best I can. But it still has that crisp edge of where the stencil was. So like right here we have a skull that I went in. I'm not going to redo the whole entire area that I did with the other color. I'm just going to bring in a little bit of highlight to where it looks like there's a brighter edge kind of glowing on that skull. And what I'm doing is kind of pulling some of the color out and bringing that up a little bit. And I'm going in the same direction as the fire would go on my streaks. So it looks like the fire is just kind of, you know, bouncing off that and kind of getting that whole entire look to it. I'll come in with the stencil, and I use a stencil, see I'm blocking that, and I'm blending off, so I'm getting this real nice fade in here. That's basically all the stencil's supposed to do. Give you that line, kind of soften it up a little bit with the airbrush, get a little bit of line over here, kind of feed out of that. Put some more paint in the airbrush, it's always good. All right, this is our fender right here. This is our focus point right here. This is where everybody's going to be looking, right there at that front of that fender. So we got a little skull here. We're going to go in and just kind of add some detail points to it. Kind of make it look like the real hot spot of the fire is just kind of glowing off certain sections of this. And you can see you don't want to do the whole entire skull because it would take away from it. This way you have a lot of depth in it. I'm going to come in and kind of make the teeth kind of stand out a little more. As you notice, I'm not really worried about too much of the detail. Because remember, it's the fire creating this. It's not out on its own. Add just a little hot spot right in here. Kind of make it look like its skull's kind of glowing there. And now I'm going to come in and kind of bring out a little bit of that real bright green look to it. Now this is not the brightest color. We're coming back in with just a pure yellow, which when we hit that with the candy, that yellow will turn to that green. It's going to look beautiful. You'll really have that pop. And you notice I've been using the stencil a lot lately, but you don't really notice stencil lines. We're just using that stencil to really bring out a sharp edge and be able to get a real good fade with it. So I'm going to come over here and just kind of see, we take that stencil and just kind of add that. See how I could bring that fade in? And then I come in and kind of get rid of that line. That's the way I do it. I enjoy the look of it. Other people like it. Kind of smooths it out. Doesn't look so over stenciled. But you also got to remember, it's your flames. You can make it look any way you want. I think there was this famous guy, Bob Ross or somebody like that. He used to say, make it yours. If you want a tree over there, you want a happy, we got little happy flames over here. Make them happy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up some bright yellow. Continue on the whole entire bike, and then we're going to shoot some green candy over it. So we'll show you, we'll be back on that yellow. All right, so now we're coming in with the bright yellow. Not quite yellow, greenish yellow. We've got one more stage after this, and then we're going to candy it all and make it that green. So you can see the brightness of this one just kind of makes that pop out just a little bit more. Now this is kind of, in the color cup, it looks just like a radiator green. Nice antifreeze green. Now even this, I'm coming in and I'm doing even less of highlighting. Just little tiny areas now. Now this is still the same brush that we've done all this fire with. I haven't changed needles, I haven't changed nozzle size. I don't know what size this is. I want to say it's a 0.35, someplace around there. But it'll do anything. It's, you know, it's not the size of the nozzle, it's the taper of the needle that gets you that fine line. We'll go into that in another session. But now I'm just going to come in here and just kind of, I call it scribbling, kind of just scribbling with the yellow. Just kind of bringing it out, making it pop. Once again, I hit it with the stencil, and then I come in and soften it up. Now I haven't cleaned out the airbrush once. This whole entire time I've just been switching colors and going lighter. Even the cup that I've been mixing the colors in, I haven't been cleaning it out. I'm just taking it, adding more yellow, and keep on doing that until we get to almost pure yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to pure yellow, and we'll be right back. This is it, final color. It is a bright yellow. So now we're just going in with pure yellow. It's going to be pretty cool because when we shoot the green candy over it, that yellow will become a super bright antifreeze looking green. So now this color, I'm just going to come in and just get that pop of that yellow going. We don't need to do too much, just kind of here and there. This is really where we just kind of add a little bit of detail. You don't want too much because you don't want to get away from that green. You want all that depth in there. You can see how I just come in and just little highlights. Kind of make it pop. I'm going to come in here with that bright green. I'm going to call it bright green because that's what it's going to be, but it's yellow. And just add here and there. So we don't want to take away too much from what's below it. If you do too much of this color, what it's going to do is it's going to just add another layer. It's not going to look like hot spots or pops. It'll actually take away from what you're doing. We don't want that. We just want to add too. You know, this is kind of the final stage. Get that. We'll be able to get that that nice green candy over the top of it. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to do this to the rest of the bike. That way you don't have to sit around and watch me do this. Go get yourself a drink or whatever you want to do. Come back and we're going to have this all bright yellowed out. We'll kind of do a little round on the bike, kind of show all what the yellow did. And then we're going to shoot a green candy over the whole entire bike. All right, guys, look at this. Look at this. It's almost done. This bright yellow, bright green flames. We got the yellow on it now. Now I'm going to come in with the green candy, which is a transparent paint. Shoot it on and it will slowly make up a green color over this yellow. So what we want to do is we want to sneak up on it. So what I'm going to do is just lightly hit it, kind of sneak up on that green color. We don't want to go too much. See how we're knocking it down that quick? That's all we want. We just want a little touch of that, just to make it that green looking fire. That's it. It's that easy. Do some bright green flames. Now, if you guys have questions, have airbrush questions, pinstriping questions, we got this famous guy named Garbs, pinstriper. He comes over and does a lot of striping with us. If you have any questions about paint, questions about anything, let us know. PM me, put it down on the post, kind of type it in there, get it all done. We'll come in and we'll help you out the best we can. We know a lot of the companies, we know a lot of the products, we know a lot with airbrushing. I've been doing it my whole entire life. So if we could help you out, like I said, any questions, blue fire, green fire, red fire, true fire, all the different fires. You want flames, you want wood graining, you want gold leafing. We know it all. We'll get it all done. So let us know. All right, so we're going to be doing a lot of these different how-tos. We're going to be doing pinstriping, gold leafing, paneling, flaking, doing cobweb, doing lace patterns, anything custom paint related from pinstriping. Doing different fades in pinstriping, using only urethane pinstriping paints, using one shot, using just basically everything out there. If you guys have suggestions, let us know. That way we can work on that. We can try to get different suggestions, different companies, different ways of not wasting your time trying to learn the wrong way. Not saying that we're right in any means, but we just know what works. We've been doing it for so many years. So that way we can kind of help you out and kind of, take out the learning process. Instead of going, 20 steps to there, we can just take you there and get it done, just like this right here. So that's what you got to look forward to later on. It's going to be in this video, but from this point on, it's going to be tomorrow. See you guys later. All right, guys, we got the clear done last night. As you can see, all done. We can show you a little bit of how that flake works. Kind of gets a little dance in there, unlike me today. 2 in the morning, spraying clear coat. It's normal for custom paint. Get used to it. You'll have the customer show up at 6 o'clock in the morning, knocking, saying, "Hey, is it done yet?" Hand them a wet part. We get used to it. After a while, that's just the way it is. So if you like the way the fire turned out, if you like watching me, like our cameraman Dave in the background, if you like watching all that, stay tuned, subscribe to us, hang out on Facebook on our channel. We're going to be doing pinstriping, gold leafing, silver leafing, engine turning, basically everything you could imagine with the gold leafing. A little bit of hand sign lettering, a little bit of vinyl lettering, how to work with that, how to make it not look so stickerish. We're also going to be doing tons of airbrushing. That's kind of where I live, right there in that little world of airbrushing. Custom paint, how to lay out flames. Seems kind of easy to lay out like old school flames. It is once you learn it. It's that learning it, how to get that to flow, and then looking at a complete job and mapping it all out. Getting that job to look like it's not a person over here, a part over here, or something over here. So if you like what you see, subscribe, rate, do all that. We'll talk to you guys later. See you next time.